Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna kind of run down the questions and everything that I sent over to Morgan a couple days ago.
Yes.
Just kind of starting with the basics. Can you give me your first and last name, your age, neighborhood of residence, and then, what you do outside of, politics outside of the council?
Of course, of course. Thank you. So thanks for having me. I'm Jake Seastrand, and I'm 36 years old, and I'm a proud resident of the Fair Park neighborhood, the portion that's in District 3. Outside of my campaign, my professional life is pretty dynamic. I work as a judicial assistant for the Salt Lake County Justice Court. So that means I oversee the court's jury trials. I record all the in-court rulings. I'm in court with the judge most of the time. And then I actively monitor and track these probation cases that come, as a result of the rulings. So pretty dynamic. And then aside from that, my professional career, myself and my husband, we are small business owners here in the community. We operate a residential and commercial cleaning company. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As someone who covered courts for about 5, 6 years, I know how interesting the
Yeah.
judicial system can be. So
They can be very complex, but it's a great, it's a good intro into the justice system. So
for sure. So another kind of basic question, why run for city council? Why get involved with city politics at a time like this?
absolutely. That's a great question. So I'm running because I truly honestly love the city. I believe that Salt Lake City um, on its face has become unattainable for too many of our neighbors. Um, for me firsthand, I see that people like myself, and other professionals like teachers, firefighters, artists, people who make up our community and they're vibrant are being priced out. So I grew up here and it was always like clear within me that I wanted to build my life here. Um, but I felt like almost overnight as I became, old enough to start thinking about buying a house or, where I wanted to live and all that. It just was too unaffordable. So it was nearly impossible. So as a longtime resident of Salt Lake City, I generally am concerned about that. And I don't know how anyone will ever be able to afford a home in the neighborhood that they love. So that challenge, that urgent challenge really called me to action. It really motivated me to run for city council. And I do want to create real change. I want to improve our city. I want to be involved in these crucial decisions because I feel like as just a member of the community, I have firsthand experience in seeing what would affect myself and my neighbors the most. And I just want to build on that. So that's kind of my foundation for running.
Okay, cool. So just kind of going off that, just in terms of housing, I was looking through your website and that's, pretty big focus of your
Mhm.
campaign. Um, I guess, what are some of the things you would want, some of the changes you'd want to affect if you were elected to the council? Just what are some ideas that you want to implement to, in the hopes of making Salt Lake City more affordable?
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's a great question. I'd like to see more direction in zoning. I'm really encouraged the direction of the current council that they've moved in. A lot of these changes that they've implemented are laying like really important groundwork for um, the affordable housing movement that I want to see. I would like to build on that and accelerate that if I could. These changes I think I would implement would be I want to mix up, I want to change the mixed use zoning code, and that's critical. So that'd be my first step is got to acknowledge that the reality is that we need more housing options across the city. And in District 3 specifically, it's already fairly urbanized. It's single family homes mostly. We are seeing some changes on the western edge of the district in like Fair Park and Marmalade with more higher density housing, but I'd like to see that exclusionary zoning taken back and that would be my first step. Um, Let's see. Someone else is I'd like to invest in more infrastructure that allows for this kind of change. So like bike infrastructure. I am really impressed by the progress the city's made with changing the streets layouts, with enhanced curbing, with dedicated bike lanes. But that would be a big improvement that I'd want to champion as well. I'm trying to think. Basically that, but I feel like the zoning code is something we can directly address without costing taxpayers money.
Yeah, for sure. And, you kind of touch on one of the other questions that I have is, obviously, I mean, the Salt Lake City Council in the past year or so have, they've overhauled the mixed use zoning code, consolidating was it 26 different zones down to six now?
Exactly.
Um, so you have changes like that, but, you also have policy that they've passed in the, past year or two, kind of, downtown parking, let's see, bike infrastructure, which you kind of touched on
Mhm.
a little bit. But I guess, just I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were regarding the council's, recent changes in the past, year or so. Is that I guess I'm curious to see if the changes that have been made would be the kind of things that you would support if you were, on council, given, those I guess decisions in front of you, or if there's aspects that you didn't really agree with that you would push back on or vote differently than what the council has.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's indeed a central question for, the council and for our district and the city as like going forward. Um, we need to improve the housing affordability for all city residents, but I do respect the direction they're taking, but I would want to take it further because I want to see us proceed with respecting the unique character and the history of like our district, the Avenues, Capitol Hill. But we also need to be realistic that people, need places to live. So, being creative with zoning structure would help with streamlining like ADUs, mixed use residential and commercial buildings, and allowing for like townhouses, duplexes, and triplexes, those kind of things that wouldn't necessarily be high density. I don't foresee, District 3 housing large scale high rise apartment buildings. But I do see that there's ways to be creative with that we could implement more density without sacrificing neighborhood character. So if I were elected to be on the city council, my main goal would be to promote those creative and pragmatic solutions to housing without sacrificing that character. And that ultimately comes back to listening to the residents that would live next to these kind of projects. Um, like there's always controversy around new developments, like up in the avenues, the housing project that went up there. I believe it's called the cottages. And I'm not here to make a stance on that, but I do feel like there's a missed opportunity to really listen to people that would live next to these kind of projects. And in speaking with people out, when I've been canvassing and also like at booths at the different recent events that I've had, people are wanting options. There's, a need for like homeowners really want the freedom to, build something on their property, or, if they have a garage, they want to be able to update that, maybe make that an ADU. I really want to be a champion for those kind of things.
Okay, yeah. And I guess going off that, while canvassing, holding events, that sort of thing, what are some of the more pressing issues for constituents of District 3? I mean, is it housing, transportation, anything like that? I guess is there something that kind of has stuck out to you during conversations with constituents as
Mm.
far as concerns that they have and, what they want to see in a council member?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great one. And I was surprised about the feedback that I got from people. And granted, I haven't really had a chance to meet with everybody, but I do like these opportunities like this interview to really get my message across. But in speaking with people, I found it the most pressing issue was transportation and housing. I feel like the Avenue specifically, they're working on updating their community plan, and there's a lot of pressure from, all kind of sources to update that, but we really want the residents feel like they don't want to be bulldozed and into feeling like they have to follow some certain plan that, would mandate like large scale housing density, or, they really want to have a seat at the table. The other concern is that the transportation, the east-west routes through the avenues into, Capitol Hill are really congested. So just general infrastructure upgrades. So like we're talking, and out and walking, even canvassing, there was a lot of raised sidewalks that I tripped on. There was like, just general like basic things that could be upgraded that I think in these large, widening I-15 and all these other projects that are happening, you kind of forget that neighborhoods need that too. They need, consistent, regular upgrades. I'd like to see like more bike lane infrastructure within the avenues. The roads there are built for cars, and we do need, easy east-west access, but we can also do that with, different modes of transportation integrated into the system. So we need upgrades for sure. That's kind of the two main things.
Okay. Um, yeah, and I guess you kind of answered it right there, but one of the other questions I have just regarding transportation is, eh, trying to pin down what kind of is the most notable issue when it comes to transportation. I mean, specifically within District 3, whether that's just general road improvements or, bike infrastructure, like you said, what's, in your opinion, what's kind of the biggest transportation issue that your constituents would face?
Yeah, great question. I believe the most pressing transportation issue within District 3 is that dual challenge of pedestrian safety and also usable neighborhood connections. So we, practically, cars, we are going to live in a car society. So car needs to go from A to B. Um, and we need to do that safely and in the best possible way. But the avenues, the way it was built, wasn't really necessarily built for these, you know, futuristic cars that, the pioneers didn't envision that. So we kind of have to roll with that. But I think that um, we can do that now with technology to make that be, practical. So I'd like to see more improved like transportation options. So like maybe increasing these local uh bus and UTA Go rides that are on like a circular kind of a circular route through the avenues to get people from their house to the grocery store to work, that's kind of on a regular cycle. We need to prioritize like traffic calming measures. The city did lower the speed limit in a lot of areas, but talking with people, I don't think they feel like that did anything. People are still going to speed. People are still going to, go above the speed limit. But traffic calming measures like curb extensions, better lighting, raised crosswalks, these kind of things will really improve. And that's just goes back to basic infrastructure. So the avenues, I feel like, in a sense, these east-west connections have been ignored for a while and would need some serious upgrades. I'd like to see more comfortable walking patterns, improve the safety of these roads.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that answer. So in terms of, again, we've kind of already talked about this, but in terms of zoning and, gentle density, I mean, obviously, most of District 3 is going to be, the avenues, which you said is very built out, it's
Hmm.
a kind of tight roads,
Hmm.
that sort of thing. But I guess, what do you think District Three's role could be every time? Um,
It's okay. I get it.
um, what do you think District Three's role can be just in terms of, potentially creating more housing for, for Salt Lake residents or, and I mean, I guess, do you think the District 3 could remain mostly single family homes like, in the avenues, or, if there's a role for District 3 just to, in terms of like gentle density or redeveloping, like LDS Hospital is probably going to be
Mhm.
vacated sometime in the next couple of years, and that's a lot of land that could be used for housing. Just wanted to kind
Mhm.
of get your thoughts on District Three's role in terms of creating more housing around Salt Lake City.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we did kind of touch on this a little bit, but I do appreciate expanding on it because I feel like this is probably our biggest opportunity in these next election cycle. It's a 4-year term to really create some changes within this opportunity to create more affordable housing. I don't foresee District 3 ever becoming um, high rises. I do see there being like you said, gentle density. That's definitely what I feel like it would look like. More triplexes, duplexes, townhouses style. This ADU idea, the attached dwelling unit, is really ultimately where I see District 3 heading because we have large property footprints. A lot of these single family homes have um, larger land base that they could build an attached dwelling unit, which I like to call like a backyard cottage, basically, which would allow people to live and then also rent out additional space to family or just a community member and really help curb this housing shortage because we do see um, housing going up with like high rises and apartments, but they still remain unaffordable. So I think this is how I see District 3 playing a role in that is allowing to increase stock, but also preserving that neighborhood character that, people that live here really love. And so that kind of makes it unique. So that's where I see District 3's role being is allowing this creative option um, to increase like stock for people, but also to maintain that character. I like to call it the missing middle housing. So like duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, and you get an opportunity to actually activate the lower levels. So that could become a commercial property on these like maybe corner lot nodes that allow for, people to have a business, but then also there could be homes above it too. And that they don't have to be big, tall high rises to accomplish that.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, as soon as you said that, the immediately I thought of there's a like coffee shop cafe in the
Exactly.
Adventist, and I'm blanking on the name, but whenever I'm in that area, I try to stop by. But yeah, they have apartment buildings up top. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe that that's where we're headed, and that's where I see District Three's role relying on. But as a member of the council, I represent District 3. I would be their voice, but I also want to be a champion for affordable housing everywhere. So I would support any project that allows people to live and be comfortable because I feel like too often we feel like we have to sacrifice a quality of life because it's too expensive and that we're seeing like immense housing stock on the market but it's not livable, and so not only do you have to put a down payment on a house but you have to fix it up to actually live in it,
Yeah.
and it's just really pricing people out, and so I think there's a way that we could have both.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I remember the name. It's Cafe on First. That's
Oh yeah, thank you.
great food.
I jumped over
Um,
that. I had blanked on it too.
no, you're totally fine. Um, and I guess kind of talking about small businesses, like you said, you're a small business owner yourself with your husband. If elected to the council, what are, one of the small businesses is one of the aspects listed on your website. What do you think the council's role would be in, supporting local businesses? I guess what are some ways that if elected to the council, you would support these, small businesses like yours?
Absolutely. Thank you. That's the one thing I feel most comfortable talking about because I have done it. We started our, just for context, we started our business in 2018, me and my husband, and right before the pandemic, we didn't know that was going to happen, but that first year was really tough because we had to navigate licensing procedures, we had to get startup money, and so that involved looking for grants, looking for loans. And then we had the fact of where are we going to operate? How will this business look in this neighborhood? And the business we run doesn't allow us to have a storefront. We don't have like a brick and mortar place to, that's like our office or whatever. So we operate that out of our home. And that's kind of the day and age we live with small businesses now is most people won't that operate a small business won't operate from like an addressable brick and mortar, building. And a lot of these businesses are online generating, revenue through, the website that they've created or, stuff that they sell. And so I'd like to see the city take a more proactive approach in modernizing their small business, you know, uh, processes. I'd like to see a one-stop shop kind of thing for anyone trying to start a small business that they could go to like an SLC handled website that lets them apply for a license, apply for a grant, apply for all these other things all in one place. That they wouldn't have to jump from department to department or, feel like they coulda, woulda, shoulda known this, but didn't, I'd like to eliminate all that. So that would be my role to champion. And then the other thing I'd like to see is support for these small businesses that run like mobile businesses, like we're talking food trucks. I think there should be maybe a liaison that kind of represents these people that are, starting out a restaurant or something, but from their, like a kind of a mobile business type deal. Um, I'm trying to think. My mind went blank. But that kind of thing. I'd really like to see more support for that because that is the lifeblood of our economy. I don't think people realize, but 45% of Utah's workforce, and this is on a broad scale, they work for a small business. And that's people that operate a business from zero to like 100 employees. So that's a huge chunk of our workforce that work for some type of a small business or own one. And so we need to support these people and be there even through the hard times. We saw this with the Main Street fires. That was devastating. That, ripped out those businesses there. I've been to those restaurants. I was a frequent patron there and loved the vibe. But those just got decimated by this fire, and no one could predicted that. And I applaud the city for providing some type of a safety net, but that should have been in place before. And we learned this with COVID because I felt like this too, that when COVID hit and I needed support, I had to apply, but there was no guarantee I would get anything. And actually, my application with the city um, was denied because I didn't have an addressable, it was just out of my home. And so there was some factors with that, not just that, but I felt like that could have been more streamlined. There could have been we need to have that kind of in place already for people to rely on if there's long-term construction, that kind of safety net. So I'd be a big proponent for overhauling our approach to small businesses in general.
Okay. Yeah. So shifting gears a little bit, another thing, that's come up in these interviews, it's also on your website is maintaining Salt Lake City's green space.
Mhm.
So, obviously the Green Loop has been a big topic of debate in the past couple months, in addition to the state bill that passed that, kind of, made projects like that a little bit more difficult. But,
Mhm.
if elected, how would you want to, support the parks that Salt Lake City already has, while also, another aspect is always public safety when it comes to, a lot of Salt Lake City's private parks. So I wanted to get your take on how Salt Lake City's green space could be better supported, better served, for the people who utilize it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that question because I do love our green space. That's actually the one thing I love about Utah. And, I do take my dogs up on the trails above, the city pretty fairly often, foothills and in through City Creek Canyon. So I do feel like there can be upgrades made. I think just general improvements in maintenance. I feel like keeping up, I would be a supporter of just keeping up with the support that we already have for green space. I feel like there could be more use of green space. I think we could identify areas of land that could be turned into like a mini park. Some of these places kind of sit underutilized and maybe using the residents to identify these homes, maybe some type of a feedback comment space where people could suggest a place for a park that we could actually, as a city, be more proactive in implementing and putting in new ones, and then just updating the ones that we have back to basics, like updated park play structures, updated lighting, more efficient park, like green space, um, more, like more zeros, more options with green space. We don't always have to have a big grassy field, but we could have like more xeriscape type things. I'd like to see that happen. And then just, regular upgrades. I do feel like the Green Loop was a great idea, and I'm sad that it kind of got derailed. I'm hopeful if I sit on the council that I could be a catalyst that helps get that back up and going because I feel like it was a great idea. And if that were to ever come to fruition, if I could be a help for that, I'd like to see it extend into District 3. I'd like to see that, maybe a portion of District 3 did house part of the Green Loop. So, um, yeah, I'm a big proponent of our green space. I'd like to see that go forward and I'd be a supporter of that.
Okay. Um, and I think you're kind of just given your background working for the courts, I think you're kind of in a unique position to kind of share your aspects on the public safety aspects with Salt Lake City. So I guess um, you know obviously this is a thing that's coming up more and more. There's state intervention, and this has been a big focus of Mayor Mendenhall's administration as of late. But if elected, I guess I wanted to get your take on what can be done to improve Salt Lake City's public safety. Is I don't know if you have thoughts on kind of the current direction where the city is going, where it's increased patrols and that sort of thing, as well as the new facility that the state and the city want to build, kind of I guess northwest of the city. But I just wanted to get your take on how public safety can be improved and what you would want to do as a member of the council if elected.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am a big proponent of that because my professional career, I've seen firsthand how people can change from proper implementation of the justice system. I believe that uh, people don't wake up, and I don't think inherently we wake up and want to commit crime. I think that there's a pathway for that. And so I feel like we can have both. I feel like we can be compassionate towards people that are struggling with certain aspects of things like substance abuse and maybe mental health challenges, but we can also be proactively strong in protecting our community. So I do applaud the efforts to improve, increase patrols. I would be a big proponent of public safety. I would be a big supporter of our police and our first responders. But I would like to see these compassionate services expanded. I don't know if many people are aware, but Salt Lake City, as as a justice court, like within their justice court jurisdiction, has what's called a homeless outreach court. And this role, which is pretty unique for Salt Lake City as a court system, but they actually go out into the public and find these people that are within the boundaries of Salt Lake City that are homeless or unhoused for whatever reason or struggling with drug addiction or something like that, and they help them navigate the legal system, help them get their warrants recalled, help them get their licenses back valid to be valid. They so it's a proactive approach. So I would support projects like that. I would be a big proponent of a way to work with people and also keep crime from escalating. Because I do feel like as a big city, we have a role to keep our residents safe, but also to protect the vulnerable. And then as far as the homeless center that they proposed, I feel like they went about it the wrong way. I would have liked to see more community input. Like we've been having a large discussion about this for a long time. So to just kind of like, throw that onto the back of Salt Lake City and be like, you must, host this big facility was wrong. I would like to see all municipalities work together. It's not a Salt Lake City issue alone to handle all the homelessness that's in Utah. Every city has unhoused people. Every city has to deal with it within their jurisdiction, but we also have to work together. So, as a city council member, I would work with our neighboring cities to see if we can all come together to all have a shelter somewhere. Each city should have a homeless shelter, but the question is where would it be? How would it work with the neighborhood? So I would be a big proponent to work together with, city leaders, but also other cities because it is a regional issue that's not just for Salt Lake City to solve.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. Um, well, Jake, I mean, that's pretty much all the questions I have. I'm not sure if it popped up for you, but it says,
Oh, yeah.
8 minutes left on the Zoom.
I did, and I started to get, I
Y-
got to rush.
yeah, yeah, and I also realize, you have to go back to work, and I totally understand that. But just to kind of wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to add that I might not have asked about, or, something that you would want voters to know, heading into ballots being sent out in a couple weeks?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate this. I want to thank you for the invite. I really do like discussion, and part of the reason I ran was that the more people that participate, the better, the more ideas we have. And so I just wanted to facilitate that, and I appreciate you being the platform that we could do that. I just want to emphasize that, we touched on several of my core campaign visions, but um, the housing affordability and availability and the small businesses, they're two sides of the same coin. So we truly need to support people where they're at. So I think that creating a city that has abundant opportunity and everyone has a stable foundation, they can also have a great quality of life with somewhere to live. I think there's two things can be true. I think we can both have both. And so I think that's fundamental to my campaign is that I will be a passionate champion for public safety, for ensuring our green spaces are kept well and that we add more. I'd like to see more housing stocks, more options for homeowners to improve the housing they have, to build ADUs, to build and create, and then also to create a small business with what they're passionate about. So I'd be that champion on the city council. Ultimately, I would approach it as the advocate for the neighbor. I'd be the one that listens, but also communicates the thoughts of the people of District 3 to the council and propose, be a big supporter of the average resident. So I do appreciate the chance to share that, and I'd like to ask for everyone's vote on November 4th. And then sidebar, there is two more opportunities to really get to know us as candidates because there's five candidates. So it's a really stacked field. We have a debate that's going to happen, I think, at the Other Side Academy on October 9th. That'll be open to the public at 6:30. I'm sure they're going to announce that, so be on the lookout for that. And then there's a forum, the communities, councils of Fair Park, the Avenues, and the Capitol Hill neighborhood have come together to host a District 3 forum for the candidates that are running. And so that'll be on the 15th of October at 7. So there's really two great opportunities right there, as well as some other opportunities to meet us to really get to know who we are and what we stand for so that they can make a wise choice. Because I think as you're informed, we'll be able to help Salt Lake City become a great city. So thank you.
All right. Well, Jake, like I said, that's pretty much all the questions I have. If I do think of anything else, I might shoot you an email or, you or Morgan or whoever, just might
Yeah,
send that way. But also,
absolutely.
you're welcome to reach out to me whenever. I mean, you have my email address, obviously, but, my cell phone number and that sort of stuff should also be in those emails. Um, so yeah, no, I
Okay.
appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat. And I know court probably starts back up in the next 20 minutes or so. So
Yeah, exactly.
I will let you get back to it.
Hey, thank you. And then I appreciate you emailing me. You can email me directly. Morgan
Okay.
just handles that main email, but I'm
Gotcha.
happy to answer any questions you got. You just shoot them to me with that email, that personal one.
Perfect. Good to know. So yeah, no, thanks again for the time and
Yeah.
hope you have a good rest of your day and a good weekend. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. Finally, we made it. Hey,
All
thanks
right.
again. You take care.
Yeah, you do the same. All right. Bye-bye.